when you walk in the room, when you start a business and you start to talk about somebody, you're never in a vacuum with no competition, unless you're just extremely lucky. And if there's going to be competition, that means somebody else knows your business as well as you do when you get started. And if you walk into a competitive environment and they still know more about the business than you do and more about your customers, you're going to lose. But most people don't consider that. They don't do the work. They don't learn more about their industry. They don't know even about their business. And so you've got to put in the effort to know more about your industry than anybody else. And that's the brains part, and that's the effort part as well. Because look, if you're competing with me, you better know what you're doing. Otherwise, I'm going to kick your ass, and you're not going to outwork me. And so, the combination is usually what kills businesses early on more than anything.
You went to IU,
Yep.
Right? Now, you got a lot of people that say, forget about school, drop
idiots.
out of school.
They're idiots.
So you think they're idiots.
They're idiots.
Tell me why.
If you're going to have and run a business, if you don't understand accounting, you're already behind the eight ball.
Can't you hire a guy that knows how to
But
run
then they still have to communicate to you. Your accountant might tell you you're profitable, but your cash is going down, not understanding a breakdown. And when you don't,
Do you think you need college to learn that?
yeah, I think you do, right? Because it may not, for some people, look, if you're so self-motivated that you can take an online course in accounting and teach yourself everything, you're way ahead of the game anyways. But most people aren't. I don't care if you go to a community college and take accounting and spend $99 for the class. Just, spending the money forces you to be more obligated to do it. But accounting, finance, lesser extent marketing, sales, if the school offers that, these are that's the language of business. And so while it's possible to teach yourself these things, and while it's possible to hire them, when you're starting your own company, you don't want to have to spend money hiring an accountant. Well, let me take that. If you've gone through all these classes, you probably don't have to hire a lawyer to incorporate, right? You can probably figure out yourself. And so your cost of opening up a business drops. But even more important than all that, that's the blocking and tackling. That's the language of business. The thing I learned at Indiana that was more important than anything else, I learned how to learn. And learning became far more important to me, because the one certainty in business is that it's always going to be changing. If you're not always learning, to this minute, if I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my ass, right? So you talk about paranoia. The greatest source of your paranoia should be knowledge. If someone else knows more than you do, and if you're not learning, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have a thirst for learning and acquiring information, you're SOL.
I just had our like a 3-day mastermind type thing with the top sellers. So 2 out of the 3 gyms who came here were over 7 figures, and the other one is going to probably hit it within the next 3 months. So it was great because it was a really higher level conversation that I might typically have with entrepreneurs, which is fun. What we talked about was kind of more amorphous, but I think it's incredibly valuable. And I think it's probably the one thing that sets apart the guys who are really winners / gals who are really winners and the ones who aren't. And so it's really just around hunger. What I mean by that is recently I had some of our older OG gym lords who've been a while, they turned their gym around, they've grown, they're at, close to 7 figures or right around there. And they've been doing it for a while. And they were complaining about show rates. They're like, hey, our show rates are low. And, you go through the saying, well, you're doing the reminders, are you doing all this stuff? Blah, blah. Yeah, we're doing all this stuff. Okay, cool. And I dig a little bit deeper and I look, and it turns out that they're only open 1 hour per day at 7:15 a.m. for their availability for new clients. And I'm like, how the do you think that you're going to grow your business if the only time that you can take new customers is at 7:15 a.m.? In what world does that make sense, right? Like imagine a grocery store that's only open from 7 to 7:30 because that's when it's convenient for the owner. What chance do you think that grocery store has at succeeding? Virtually none. And so what happens is people have success. They implement tactics. They use gym watch and then they make money, right? And then what happens? They get comfortable. They get complacent, right? And they lose their hunger. Like after that point, everything, like it's almost like, I almost want to say like after you've like quote made it in your mind, and that's what's funny is that making it in some people's mind is like having 10 grand in their bank account. So like it's scary in terms of what level of making it is. But like once people have made it, I almost want to say like none of these tactics matter because you're just not hungry. Like it doesn't matter. Like the obvious shit you aren't doing. You know what I mean? How would you approach it, right? Would you only be available for 1 hour a day? Would you only be available from 7 to 8 a.m.? Would you only set aside an hour a day to prospect for new customers? Would you only reach out to your existing customers if they hadn't shown up for a month? Sometimes people ask questions that they already know the answer to. It's like, duh, right? And it goes back to the main thing, which is like, what drives you? Right? Like, what drives you? What drives you to be better? What drives you to continue to want to win? I was asked that question yesterday by the gym owners that were here. And I think, honestly, it comes from a dark place. And I think I've said this before, but like, I'm saying it again because I think people need to hear it. Sometimes you have to wonder, like, why is it that only when someone else's life is on the line do you then actually try, right? Like, why is it only then you actually cut all the noise out of your life and then would go laser focused on actually succeeding? Like, why can't we do that all the time, right? Like, why can't we do that? Because it's like, well, then I wouldn't be happy, whatever, right? Like, whatever happiness means, right? And so the people who are the most successful in the world are driven by something that is deep inside of them that is normally an insecurity or a fear of some sort. If you're only trying to make enough to live on, you will always only make enough to live on. And you will slack the moment you get comfortable. And you will wonder, why is it that as soon as I start making money, I stop? Because you actually don't want to make more. If you were trying to be successful, do you think that only having availability for sales appointments at 7:15 to 7:45 in the morning once a day is going to get you the optimal outcome? Do you need a coach to tell you that? Really? You know what I mean? Like, really? And so, like, or there was another one that I saw that was like between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. That was their availability. Good luck with that. That's when the people who have the most money are available, right? 9 to 11 during the week. We know what to do, right? Anyone who's in our world, like, you know what to do. It's just, you have to figure out why you're not doing it, right? And then attack that, because the tactics aren't the thing anymore, right? The tactics are there. You can read a book and give it away for free, right? Like, you can do that. But like, figure out why you're not hungry. Figure out why you're not, why you're not trying. Like, just figure it out. Like, there might be something inside you. Maybe you don't want more. And like, you need to discover that. It's like, okay, then like, now you know. But like, if you claim to want more, and yet you can't do what's necessary to get more, then that's where your attention should go. And you should figure that out. Because otherwise, it doesn't matter what tactics there are. You're just not going to do them anyways. So what's the point? It's just a question of how bad you want it. I really think that's it. And like, figuring out why you're not doing what you already know you should do in order to achieve it. Like, do you need to go pay someone a bunch of money in order to then get motivated? I don't know. Like, hopefully your kid doesn't need to be kidnapped in order for you to get motivated about your business. Hopefully, right? And so it's like, what is that thing? For me, it's just fear. It's just fear and insecurity. It's fear of failing, fear of not being good enough, fear of people who hated to be right. You know what I mean? That's what my fear. And so I just, like, that's what drives me. It's not about money. Like, it couldn't have been about money, because I don't need any more for the rest of my life at all. So like, it can't be about that. But if it is like about that for you, and you feel like when you make your first $20,000 take home month, your first $40,000 take home month, your first $50,000, $100,000 take home month, the first time you hit that, like, if that's where you're like, oh, and you feel this big sigh of relief, then your motivation is not coming from the right place. I'm telling you straight up, if you feel relief when you make a lot of money one month, your motivation is not coming from the place of a champion. If you want to be the best in the world at something, that's not going to do anything for you. You shouldn't feel anything from that.